Hello and welcome to this webinar on business-grade ransomware protection for your data. I'm James, a business development analyst on the solutions team here at Synology UK, with a particular focus on backup. Now, there's a couple of things that we're going to take a look at today. So first off, we're going to take a look at what ransomware is and why we need to protect ourselves from it. We'll then take a look at how we can protect our endpoints, so our PCs, our workstations. And then we'll also take a look at how we can protect our central infrastructure, such as our storage and our NASs themselves as well. So I guess let's kind of start right at the beginning with ransomware protection. Well, what is ransomware and why do we need to protect ourselves from it? Well, a recent article late last year by Allianz actually discovered that there has been a huge increase in the number of ransomware attacks throughout the COVID pandemic. And actually, that's going to get even worse before the whole situations get better later on in the future. This has actually also been backed up. So last year, Microsoft did a study over a 30-day period of all of its devices that are connected to their central servers. And they discovered that nearly 100 million devices were attacked by ransomware or malware. And more specifically, well, 80% of that was actually just in the education industry alone. So I guess it's kind of showcasing the scale of ransomware and how far it protects. But what actually is ransomware? Well, kind of to sum it up nice and quickly, ransomware is just malicious software that restricts access to your data until you've paid the ransom fee to get it back. But it actually goes a bit of a step further to that, and there is actually no guarantee of accessing your data after you've paid that ransom. Well, how does that actually affect your environment? Well, there's kind of two main methods of how ransomware works. So we've got number one, so a zero-day exploit, where it uses code with security flaws in it. Or the second option is we utilize a phishing attack. So users get tricked into passing on either their credentials or clicking on a link or downloading a file. And this will all gain access or allow access to our systems by this malicious software. So how can we actually protect ourselves? And also, how can we utilize Synology to help us with that? So yeah, first things first, we'll always make sure to have the latest security software installed on our devices. Now, here at Synology, we're constantly updating the DSM operating system to help close any loopholes that hackers might be able to try and gain access to your data with. But even with that, there are still ways that hackers can gain access to your devices. So first might be an authenticated user accident, where a user might unknowingly give their credentials to a hacker, possibly through a phishing exchange. We've then also got malicious intent, so an insider attack on the system itself. Or we've also got what's known as like an admin hack. So knowing a username might be enough to allow them to brute force their way onto your system. And so this is why we've always kind of recommended not to utilize admin as the default administrator account. So how do we actually start preventing this? Well, obviously, we always recommend having a strong password. That's going to be your first line of defense. And this can kind of be backed up with the two-factor authentication. So having it ping to your phone to accept to your login is going to help increase that level of security. Also, we recommend having that IP auto blocking. So if, for instance, a single IP tries to log in several times, then it can automatically block it so you don't time out the system. Obviously, then alongside that, the connections to the systems are going to be really key. So having a really good firewall and then also encrypting that connection will help to stop those man-in-the-middle attacks as well. Now, should any flaws be found in the Synology systems, then we also offer a full bounty program to help us fix that and make our systems even more secure. And alongside that, we have our own security team. So the Synology Product Security Incident Response Team, or CERT for short. And they help deal with the receipt, investigation, coordination, and then public reporting of any vulnerability. And we always have a guarantee, a 24-hour response to that vulnerability. Now, alongside this, we've also been working with other organisations. So we're a member of both FIRST and also authorised CNA. And this enables us to respond effectively and proactively to anything that should occur. So that's kind of the basics on how we can prevent getting hit by a ransomware attack. But how do you actually detect if you have been hit by a ransomware attack? Well, there are kind of two main things that we can look into. So first off, we'll look at resource monitor. So if you see anything kind of out of the ordinary, so you can see spikes in CPU utilization or network usage, then that could be an indication to a ransomware attack. Likewise, if you keep looking through Task Manager, you might see processes that don't look right to you or that you've never seen before. And this is another indication of a ransomware attack as well. So we know the best ways to protect ourselves from a ransomware attack, and we know how to detect a ransomware attack. But how do we actually go about implementing a solution? Well, here we are on the desktop of my computer, and it seems that, my folders have been encrypted. Anyway, let's take a look at how we can actually recover from this. So firstly, I'm going to shut down this computer, and this is going to help prevent the spread of the virus and the ransomware to hit any of the rest of the systems on my network. Once shut down, I'm going to log into my NAS and find the backup I've been taking of my PC in the Active Backup for Business package. From here, I'll select Restore and choose the relevant backup task. I can then choose how I want to restore this PC. So for instance, we can restore granularly through the restoration portal, but here I'm going to restore through Virtual Machine Manager. I can then choose which virtual machine cluster and storage to restore to, and I can confirm the virtual machine settings. I'll give this a little append on the name so that I know what I'm looking for. I can then confirm the virtual disk, as with all virtual machines, and also the network that we're going to be running on, and click Next. Once we're happy with the ISO and all the boot options, we'll click Next again, and we'll give access to all of our users to this virtual machine. I'll then select Power on the virtual machine after creation and click Done. And it's as easy as that. Now this is going to import into Virtual Machine Manager, and we'll be up and running in no time. Now, once Windows has booted, we can sign in and we'll be able to access all our files again. And there we are. We can now see our folders are all unencrypted. And once we've opened them, we can see that our files are all still there, ready to go as we need them. So yeah, there are a couple of steps that we took there to help get our system back up into a usable state. So we turned it off, so that helps to stop the spread of that ransomware into any of the other systems on our network. And then we also restored our computer onto the NAS, onto the Virtual Machine Manager, and that allows us to be using our system even whilst the IT team are wiping out that computer and restoring it from fresh. Now, of course, we've looked at the Active Backup suite, but there are a couple of other packages that we'll go over in a second. So, being that one of them being Snapshot Replication, so how we can protect our NAS, along with Hyper Backup, so how we can protect it to other services such as cloud services, which allow an off-site backup. So of course, yeah, we've taken a look at Active Backup for Business, where we offer that endpoint protection. So for your workstations, your servers, your virtual machines. We've then also taken a look at how we can boot it up on the NAS. So how we can have that integration with Synology Virtual Machine Manager, so we can keep utilizing our system, even if the actual computer itself isn't available. We've then also, alongside that, it's also got bare metal imaging. So obviously allows us to do a complete restoration of all the user configurations as well. And then also we have the ability to do self-restorations through that restoration portal that I mentioned. Now, of course, we've seen it in action. How do we actually go about setting it all up? Let's take a look at that now. Now, we've already set our NAS up and it's ready to accept the backup. What we'll do now is install the desktop client onto our PC. Now, I've already downloaded the program, so we'll go into the Downloads folder and run the installer. Now we just need to follow the wizard, and accept the user agreement and install the program. We'll just give permission as well when it pops up. Here we go. So we'll give permission for the program to run on our computer, and then this will install for us. All we need to do now is click Finish, and it's as simple as that. Now it's installed. Now we've got it installed, we do actually need to go and set up our backup task. So I'm going to close that and we'll go into the Active Backup for Business agent. So what we'll do here is we'll put in the server address. So this could be either the IP address or the Quick Connect ID. Here I'm just putting in the IP address and we're just going to put in our admin credentials as well. So we'll click Connect, and once this is connected, there we go. Oh, we'll just click Proceed actually. And yeah, there we go. So it's now connected. Now, one thing we are going to change is the type of the computer. So we'll just connect in and we'll put in our credentials again as well. And click OK. Now we're going to change this to the physical server, which will then enable us to do that backup or restore to Virtual Machine Manager, which we showed a case earlier. And we'll click OK. And it's as simple as that. So that is our backup task, all connected and all ready to go. So now that we've connected our NAS to the server, what we need to do is we need to go and create our backup task on the server. So we've signed in here, and what we'll do, we'll go to the Active Backup for Business package. And here we can see that we now have one physical server showing here. We'll open up the physical server tab and we can see that it is now listed. So what we'll do, we'll create a task and we'll name this Workstation Backup. Now there's a couple of settings that we want to go over. So we want to make sure that it's backing up the entire device. We'll enable data transfer compression and data transfer encryption, but we'll leave everything else as is. Now we'll save it into Active Backup for Business. That's a good folder to save it into. Now we'll leave these as is. So we'll have application aware backup enabled, but we'll leave everything else off for the time being. We'll also set up a schedule. So we'll do daily and make sure it's a time that no one's going to be using the network. So 3 o'clock sounds good. And we'll also enable a retention policy. So for the last 30 days, we'll keep a backup. Now, all we need to do is we need to make sure we have access to all of the relevant people. So sysadmin is our user. So we'll give access to that and we'll click next. And once we're happy, we shall click done. And it's as simple as that. Yeah, so it's now all backed up. So let's kind of go over how we've got all of our systems working together. So we've got our endpoint computer. So this is our workstation that we're working on all the time. We're now backing it up with Active Backup for Business to our Synology NAS. And should, for whatever reason, that computer be unavailable to us, whether it be through that ransomware attack or just a generic failure of the system, then what we can actually do is we can actually restore it to that virtual machine manager, which is a really key kind of feature that only really Synology have. So yeah, we've kind of looked at how we can do endpoint restoration, so VMs, PCs, workstations, and so on. But how do we actually protect the NAS? Because, well, we actually want to protect our Synology NAS because they're really good bits of kit. So what we'll do is we'll actually utilize Snapshot Replication. So Snapshot Replication is actually the best protection against ransomware. So it allows you to maintain structure of your data and your files, but also allow you to have a full 3-2-1 of data backup. So it allows you to have that offsite backup and offsite failover. Of course, it also still allows you to restore previous versions, and actually you can roll back versions in the Windows interface. So it's a really useful tool for managing on a day-to-day basis. And it also has the added ability of read-only snapshots. So it has the added security, knowing that if anything were to happen, you have that snapshot, and once that snapshot's taken, it cannot be changed, and so yeah, can't be infected by ransomware. So let's actually take a look at it in action. Now here we are on the NAS, and if I go into File Station, we can see I've got a couple of files. So under Webinars, I've got some webinars that I've been working on lately, but we don't actually have any replication on this. So what we'll do, we'll go into Snapshot Replication. And if we look into snapshots, we can see that there's no protection at the moment on this folder. Now that's easily solved. So what we can do is go into settings, and we'll enable snapshot schedule, and we'll just make sure that we're happy with that. Yep. And we'll also enable a retention policy. So here I'm just going to keep the latest 30 days because that's going to give us a good amount of storage, good amount of backup. And also we'll make the snapshots visible as well, so we'll be able to see them when we're looking for them as well. So we'll click OK, and well, yeah, it's as simple as that. That's now started our retention of our snapshots. But this hasn't actually taken the snapshot yet. So under take snapshots, we'll just create a restore point 0 so that we've got our very first snapshot that we can restore from. So we'll click OK. And once it's done, oh yeah, it's as simple as that. It's the fastest way of backing up your data. Now, of course, we can actually check to make sure that we've got our list of when we've got our backups. So we're going to snapshots and snapshot list. We can see that it's there, ready to use when we need it. Now, in the process of making this webinar, I actually went home overnight and I was doing my bits and pieces. But when I came into the office the next morning, I went back onto the NAS, back into my webinars folder, and realized that, all of my files have been encrypted. But this is good. This is why we have our protection. So under Snapshot Replication, we can see that we've got our webinars and it's scheduled. So what we need to do is go into Recovery. We can find our snapshots, so webinars, and we'll click Recover. Now we can restore from that, so we'll just restore to this snapshot. We don't want to take a snapshot before restoring because obviously we don't want to back up our ransomware infected data, but we will restore the settings for the shared folder, and we'll click OK. Now obviously the best way to make sure all of our data is still there is to open up the file. So what we'll do, we'll open up this presentation. So yeah, that's actually a really good one on Active Backup for Microsoft 365. Do go and have a watch of that if you haven't already. And we'll hopefully be able to see that everything is as good as it was when we left it yesterday. And yeah, perfect. Everything's all there and we're all good to go. Now, snapshots are a really useful technology, but they do have a bit of a limitation in that they're not able to back up your NAS's configuration settings, and they can only really be sent remotely to another Synology NAS. So this is kind of where Hyper Backup comes in. So this is another Synology app that can be used to back up your data and send to an off-site location. Now, unlike with snapshots, Hyper Backup supports the backup of your configuration settings in DSM. So this includes users, groups, network settings, application settings, and various other kind of parameters that you'll not really want to build from the ground up if you need to do a complete restoration of your entire NAS. Now, it also utilizes a simple wizard UI, so you can easily relink, restore, and configure different backups and restorations. And it also has the ability to back up to cloud repositories, such as the Synology C2 cloud, which allows you to have that third level of restoration, or third level of backup, sorry, but without needing a second NAS. Now, the Synology backup environment is a really diverse ecosystem. So we've got protections for your servers, your PCs, your Microsoft 365 environments, and Google G Suite. If you want to learn more about that, please do go and have a look at our previous webinar. You can find that on our Spot page. But it also allows us to not only back up those endpoints to a NAS, but then also have that ability to back up our NAS to either another NAS with both Hyper Backup and Snapshot Replication, or to an offsite cloud party, such as the Synology C2 Cloud with Hyper Backup. So yeah, in summary, we've looked at a couple of different things today. So we've looked at ransomware. So what is ransomware and why do we need to protect ourselves from it? We've then also looked at security. So we've looked at some of the things we can do to prevent ourselves from getting an attack in the first place. But should anything come to the worst, then we've also taken a look at the recovery. So we've looked at active backup and how we can utilize that to back up our endpoints and make sure they're all protected. And then also we've looked at snapshot replication and hyper backup on how to protect our systems and our NASs themselves. So all that's left for me to do is to say thank you, and I do hope to see you very much soon in the next one.